I think it is up to the individual schools. If you have 50% of your kids with COVID, then I think it's entirely understandable that the head teacher would want to take remedial action. I suppose there ought to be some sort of guidance issued from the Department of Education, so head teachers at least have something to work from. But I certainly wouldn't want to get back to a situation where all schools in the country were closing.
Well, it's last resort, they say. I mean, I don't know whether it's the last resort.
Well, it should be the last resort.
There will be issues locally with those schools. Maybe you let the schools decide.
I think that what the government is doing is letting schools decide. There is no clear guidance. So I don't blame the schools for doing that. It's one thing to have maybe a potential case of COVID and then you send home the bubble, those maybe everybody in their classroom. But what if the people or the person has actually engaged with more people in the common areas of the school? The school does not have the ability or the resources to manage that. They have no choice, especially with the fact that COVID did not get the memo that it's over and we're getting rising cases of COVID. They have no choice but to say, okay, maybe the safest thing to do is to move everybody out and go online.
Except that we know there's a downside. We know the downside is in education, particularly for the less advantaged pupils who haven't got the Wi-Fi and all of that. We know, people fall behind, and it's sad to see it.
But last year would have prepared schools, particularly state schools, for what would happen, especially to support children from homes who don't have devices. I don't think the school could have made any other choice. Again, it depends on the
maybe if you're the government, you say don't under any circumstances close without ministerial permission.
No,
you wouldn't do that?
No, that would be wrong.
Ring us if you want to close.
You can't govern a little primary school in the middle of Norfolk from Whitehall. That just doesn't work. I think there is a difference here also between secondary schools. Well, if most secondary school pupils are vaccinated, then they're unlikely to be hospitalised. I mean, much less likely to be hospitalised. It's slightly different in primary schools, isn't it? Because we're not vaccinating younger children yet. I mean, that may come. So, again, you have to leave it to the individual head teacher, who I'm sure will have guidance from their local education authority, but in the end, it has to be a local decision.
And I can't work out whether the schools are doing it because there's an outbreak in their actual school or whether there's an outbreak in the surrounding area. So, you've got a lot of cases in the town.
In both situations, I think that would call for consideration to close the school. But I would rather my child be safe at home
it's so
and
funny.
learning online than be put in a situation where he or she could get
I find myself disagreeing with you. I just think keep it open at all costs. We saw what happened last year.
My child's life is more important.
As well, if you say, right, we're closing the school for the week, as if the kids are just going to stay at home. Like when I was a teenager, you want to go and hang out with your friends in the evening. And as soon as you come back after the week, they're all going to be mixing together again. So I feel like it's not going to do anything.
But
it's just going to be harder for the teachers.
Step in? I mean, if I was a parent from one of those schools, my kids aren't going to sit on their butts doing jack all at home. They will be studying. I can promise you that.
During the day.
Yeah.
But then once school hours are done, they'll be mixing. And with Christmas approaching as well, I think we're all going to be getting together and having big Christmases this year because I feel like we didn't have that last year.
And you say, for the children, they're safer. Well, how threatening is this illness to the children themselves? Not very.
No, that's not true. That's not true. There are children who have caught COVID who have died. Maybe, yes, we don't have a huge number. But
give us the stats on that.
But my point, though, is... but they are children who have died. The fact that it's not a high number...
Children get knocked down by cars and we don't stop them crossing the road.
The fact that it's not a high number does not mean we shouldn't do what we need to do to protect them.
Well, it's a bit of a sledgehammer to crack a nut,
I don't think so. I'm telling you right now...
The chance of dying if you're 87 compared to the chance of dying if you're 7.
As a parent... I would rather my child's life at all costs. I believe in the power and the importance of education.
That is the argument.
But at all costs for me, children first, their safety first.
Right, but that is the argument for keeping every newborn baby on a ventilator for a year. Because then it is. You can't eliminate risk.
Even if you see it that way, Jeremy, it is not totally eliminating risk. It's for a short period of time. The school term is going to be ending in about, 3 weeks? So I don't know. Why are you making a mountain out of a molehill?
No, I think you're precious.
Doing that show,
no.
I mean, would you argue that we should close all schools if there's a flu outbreak in a local area because children have died of flu?
I think it depends. Again, it depends on what we're dealing with. It's not an outbreak of flu we're talking about. It's not an outbreak of measles where we know that we've got something to be able to deal with it. We're talking about an outbreak of a virus that we're still trying to get a handle on. And to your point, younger children have not been vaccinated yet.
No,
and I'm speaking as a parent.
I hear the argument
I'm
about
speaking
children
as a
spreading
parent,
it.
yeah.
Okay, fine. It maybe if you have a whole primary school gets it, it spreads it
But
to
they
older
may
people.
not
But
get
not
it.
that children are going to
But
die
if you
from
have
it.
the foresight, like I said, what if the school is not able to manage the fact that some of these children or staff members have engaged with other children in the common areas? So, usually you look at, who have you come into contact with? Wow, it's not just your classmates. You've been
under your
everywhere else.
argument,
They want to protect
under
it.
your argument, we would have had all schools closed for the last 18
That
months.
is
Well,
not-
you would close the school if you saw a bee on the premises because
Because
people
I'm scared
die.
of bees.
Well, no,
that's not what I'm saying.
These things are dangerous.
You know that is not what I'm
for
saying.
children.
But then
We're
also,
not-
is it unfair for I think it's unfair for the kids that, fair enough, if you've got COVID, then don't come to school. But I think it's unfair to shut the entire school down. So the kids that don't have COVID can't go into school to learn. Because
Again-
I know from friends that are teachers, they say it's so much better having the children in front of them, doing this online learning. They said it's
And we all
hard
agree
work.
with that. But the point here is, I think most schools are probably sending cluster of kids out, not shutting down. Those schools have made the decision to shut down. I think, look at their facts, look at the totality of the circumstances. And if they made that decision, if I was one of the parents, I would not have a problem with it.